Oh, welcome here. I'm an announcement explained here. Currently, Explosive Android is currently working on a 3.5.11 update. Real. Has the game been backdoored? Yes, it has been backdoored recently, actually. And it's because they're trying to work on 3.5.10 v5, which was released one day before it's actually released. So that means this game has been backdoored today through a vulnerability, and Explosive's already patching it in a day. So that is another Ammonos news that you have never saw before, because the game is under maintenance for the 3.5.10 v5 update or the 3.5.11 update. Once that's released, we might see some more overall features, as AHSL will be whitelist only on July the 16th. I think I'm expected to be like, AHSL will be whitelist only tomorrow, because it's going to be a big update for the game itself, and the game has been recently backdoored in the public server. Someone's trying to add, Explosive's trying to add like a 3.5.11 update into this, so this is a backdoor incident known for this, and the game is completely dead, as it's known overall for the server ID breaking. Security doesn't load in, and then we are facing a bug with this server, not including a hard ban or a game ban, but a backdoor incident where someone managed to backdoor the game and Explosive Android's fixing it. The game has currently went down due to an exploit happening. So Explosive Android's fixing this right now, and it's an update. Is actively fixing on the audit logs for 3.5.10 v5. So for 3.5.10 v5, this will apparently release in the updates. So most likely Explosive Android is working on 3.5.10 v5, but also likely to be releasing 3.5.11 as well, which is one of the biggest updates in Ammonos history. So 3.5.11 will be released between August and October now. But Explosive Android's actively making AHSL whitelist only. I said that in rumours that I was saying that AHSL will be whitelist only on July the 14th. This has never become true yet, and it's now expected to now be delayed till July the 20th or the 22nd of July, which means Explosive Android is actively making AHSL whitelist only in delayed now. So he's now delayed for the AHSL whitelist to be coming, I think. Which is an update to the admin house 3.5.11, which is coming soon. 3.5.10 v5 will have AHSL whitelist only. As an old AHSL whitelist note, it has claimed that AHSL will be whitelist only in 3.5.10 v5. That is a version that you might have never saw before. AHSL has been whitelist only starting in 3.5.10 v5. So as you can see here, it has been whitelist only since this happened. And let's hop on to AHSL's disabled note, where an older AHSL note was actually saying mods will be removed permanently in 3.5.10 v5, which is a video that I've also produced after AHSL was permanently disabled. So what you're seeing here, I'd zoom in for that, and it shows mods are permanently removed. Mods will be fully removed in 3.5.10v5. But it's not true that mods are going to be fully removed just yet. They're fully removing the mods, or making it whitelisted only in 3.5.10v5. So this is an older AHSL note that says mods are permanently removed. AHSL was completely removed on June the 6th, 2026 at 8:30, at 9 o'clock, it removed it permanently. The note was crazy. AHSL is successfully disabled. But it says that mods will be fully removed. It's not. However, we are talking about how the admin house has happened today. So admin house explain. So you might see that admin house 3.5.10 v5. AHSL will be whitelist only starting July the 20th, 2026, I think. If I expect that happening. But I might expect that AHSL will come whitelist only in 3.5.10 v5 on July the 17th, 2026. July the 17th, 2026 is AHSL being whitelisted. So, if you want to see AHSL become whitelisted in 3.5.10 v5 completely, we must have to wait till July the 17th or any later before this date to see if AHSL will become like this. And you know what's going to happen when AHSL will come whitelist only? It'll be whitelisted only to everybody for now. So that means everyone, including trusteds by default, AHSL will be enabled for most of you in trusteds. However, if you are a perm and not a trusted, then AHSL will be blacklisted for you until the staff will give you an AHSL whitelist. However, I'm talking about the vulnerability that's happening. The admin panel vulnerability. And probably the vulnerability guys aren't, most of the vulnerability guys aren't literally a trusted. So thank God, we should say that only trusteds and staff only get AHSL enabled. However, if you are not a trusted, then you'll now need to ask the staff to have AHSL fully whitelisted for you, and you can now use AHSL again. However, we now can implement whatever we can implement in. I found out a greater idea instead of whitelisting everyone AHSL, like literally blacklisting all AHSL. Just give them limited AHSL, a blacklist, and add AHSL code blacklister, which means it's going to be crazy when they implement this system as well. But it's crazy that we are going to implement something like this. We want AHSL to implement a code blacklist system. That means that anything that's blacklisted in AHSL can now not be run. That might be the best plan. And that means we don't have to get devs to have AHSL put on whitelist only. However, it has issues. It's either make AHSL whitelist only for trusted and staff, which means only trusted and staff can have access to AHSL only. And however, if you want to get AHSL, if you're not a trusted, then you'll need to ask the admin house staff for AHSL whitelists, which is going to be a thing, because by default, everyone will have whitelisted admin house scripting language for trusted and staffs only. However, if you want AHSL as a non-trusted, you'll need to ask the staff for AHSL whitelist. So then you can now be whitelisted in the AHSL, use the AHSL. Or make AHSL everyone, but blacklist the code. But blacklist's AHSL code version. That could be the best plan in admin house history. AHSL being enabled in this game is going to be cool. However, now we need to give blacklisted players AHSL. And what they'll do for this, if they abuse the AHSL, that means that staff as a trusted or a non-trusted will blacklist your AHSL completely off the list. However, they're currently making the AHSL blacklist list. The AHSL blacklist, which means we are going to get who is blacklisted in Amidal scripting language and who is whitelisted in Amidal scripting language. However, it'll be retailed to everyone inside of Amidal scripting language as a non-trusted and a trusted. However, non-trusteds will not get AHSL enabled by default. That means that if AHSL has been enabled by trusted and staff, then we are going to see the AHSL become the whitelist for everyone by default, excluding the perms with no trusted. However, if you want AHSL as a trusted, then you could use it already. It's enabled by default and it'll work just fine. However, if you want AHSL enabled for you as a non-trusted, you'll now need to ask the admin staff. So, yeah, it totally counts that if you want AHSL whitelisted by default for you without a trusted, then you'll need to ask the admin house staff for it. And that's going to be a bit cool than AHSL being a whitelist only. So by default, that means the dev candidate would be actively working on AHSL being on whitelist only. And that means everyone as a trusted and the staff will get AHSL enabled by default. Now, do you mean that we're going to get Dex as trusted in a public server? Well, no. Entirely, we don't see that happening on there in a public server. It becomes a worse plan, and it becomes of what happened. However, I want the best plan happening. I want server logs to actually be everyone, including the staff as well, because this could be the greatest updates ever. We want AHSL, and now we want server logs as a non-trusted and trusted as well, which is going to be more better than having it only be checked by the staff. Trusted plus could be existent, so Honeybound will have a higher rank. But we have the jail ban. Which is going to be a terrible issue for the honorbouts, because if they abuse their honorbouts, they will become de-honored. Off the game, or on honorbound off the game in 3.5.11. Because if they had perm jailed in every single server, then that means that the only way to be unperm jailed is just ask the admin staff. Now, what a better plan, actually. As a trusted plus, otherwise known as Honorbound. We want the admin panel being retailed to Honorbound as well. And that means Honorbound can actually ban people as well too. Currently, we also want AHSL to be like whitelisted for trusted and staff by default. Because trusties don't abuse AHSL, guys. But how about blacklist the trusted AHSL users? Because that means they'll never get their AHSL. Or AHSL never existing. Thanks to the game itself, AHSL will be enabled soon with a whitelist only. Or something like that. Giving everyone AHSL through a whitelist, excluding the perms with no trusted on there. Or no staff. So that means AHSL will now become trusted only for the whitelist users. However, if you want AHSL, you'll need to ask the admin house staff to have AHSL for you. Which means that what you'll get is AHSL allow list. AHSL not allow list. Saturn implemented this in their games as well, in Admin House Reimagined. Game's completely dead now, I think. Yep, dead now. However, they added a feature where they implement a private server. That means it's going to be the best update ever. Weirdly, the server ID is 404. In Admin House Reimagined. Look at that. Server ID 404 in a public. And I'll take that as the best plan because, yeah, AHSL is completely blacklisted and whitelisted. Yay, AHSL be whitelisted, let's freaking go! Yes! AHSL be whitelist only. Server disabled by Angel of a point. What the hell? So Poppy has now actively fixed this bug now. Of what's happening here. Which took a bit of time to get fixed. But I was actively talking all around the AHSL. They weren't fixing anything. I found the rare message. The rare message isn't not completely active, so that's the AHSL message, I think. Whoa, that's fake. Whoa, wait, what? This can't be a fake map. Who the hell had that? Oh. That's strange. They added this in. It's freaking white screened. Okay. Forgot that happening. So anyways, like and subscribe, turn on notifications. See you next time on this video.